standard.
What did I
Hey.
just hear?
How you doing?
Hello?
Wait, what happened?
About the elevator's function.
What the hell happened in your elevator?
No, Max always used to pee in the elevator instead of it
Oh.
being like a useful
they don't
elevator.
Work, so if people either use it as a restroom or they won't
Oh, yeah.
if they're thinking real hard.
Yep.
Yeah, because the stairs are a lot, you know.
Yeah, it's good for your calves.
My calves are really beautiful. I don't need people working them.
Am I good to come in?
Yeah, yep,
Yeah, you're
absolutely.
Alrighty.
I'm gonna need just a moment. I just gotta meditate about some coffee real quick.
Some coffee.
Yep.
Coffee.
That's how I
How's it going, folks? You
that's how I
good?
drink nowadays. Could we call
Yeah.
Tilly down as well, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'll call her. Yeah, how you doing, Ruby? We on shift today?
I'm on shift today. It's a tough one.
How many people? How many units are on duty?
Shit, you got it first.
Today's a pretty tough. It'll increase probably in about 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're at about 6.
There's a lot of crime right now.
Well, we just finished a cash exchange robbery, and it's, let's just say it's Sunday, and a lot of people like to go home and see their families. Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, so I mean, let's think about it. 270 calls in the last 2 hours on a Sunday. In the last 4 hours compared to around 600 to 800 on a weekday.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hope you're getting enough sleep then. Jeez.
You know, I think people come back, you know, from seeing their family. They're energized, they're refreshed, they're ready to go.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Police are working the best that they can.
Well,
at the moment.
I've
No
upgraded to
EMS on
Twitch
duty
Turbo.
again, so
At DOS Medi
just
still
do what
gets
we
the
can.
prime though.
Fair enough. I'm Archibald McRae, by the way. I don't. I think we've met a couple of times, but never like really formally introduced.
Were you up on the roof that one time? That I
Yeah,
met
yeah.
with-
I was one of the paralegals up there at the time. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the first time I met you. I think I get you mixed up with the other guy with the beard. Don't
Which
you
one,
even-
red or?
Isn't there a guy that does your does marketing? I don't know. I don't know.
Michael?
Might be Michael.
Michael doesn't really have this beard. He does have facial hair. That's a little thinner.
Yeah, I've run into him quite a few times around the city.
Talented individual.
Okay. All right, I am coffeeed up.
Awesome.
Caitlin, thank you for the Prime sub. Well, thank you for the Prime. All right.
I did call. I did ring Tilly. She didn't pick up, but I sent her a message.
All right. Okay.
Might be grabbing a snack or a bite to eat.
Oh, she went to go get some sleep. Call Kyle afterwards.
Ah, good for her.
All right. All right, Ruby. I think we should be good to go.
So yeah, you asked me to drop off a proposal by
Yes.
Monday. So I can share that with you if you like.
Absolutely. You got to yell in here, by the way.
I do.
Yep.
Is it the wood paneling?
Yeah, things also leak outside. It's getting looked into.
Can I have your state ID so I can share this with you?
Yep, it is gonna be 1166.
All right, just to confirm, 1166, correct?
Yep, that is it.
All right, I've sent that over to your documents.
All right.
I don't know if you want to share it with your team or if you want me to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't mind sharing it with them, I'm gonna pull this up.
Can I get your state ID, Eve?
1075.
And am I calling you Archie or what? What can I call you?
Archibald or Archie, either works for me. But I'm 3037.
There we go. A copy should be over in your documents through the cloud.
Yeah, I see it.
If you don't have it, let me know, and I can try sending it to you. You know, old school email.
LSPD proposal. Yeah, I got it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have had it over to you sooner. However, I was robbed and attacked, and all of my wonderful notes and my phone were stolen.
Oh, Kira, thank you for the biddies.
So we had to kind of start all over again.
All right, no worries. All right. Did you want to go through it, or did you want us to read it?
It's up to you. Do you want me to just do a brief overview? What would you like?
Whatever you prefer. I mean, up to you. This is well put together.
I'll let you guys go into the nitty gritty of it, but pretty much I started off by just explaining a little bit about myself and, of course, where we are right
now. Since I was punishing at the end of March, I'm on duty.
Kind of just explaining that I've almost been on duty every single day since becoming assistant chief. And that I see my role as definitely 50-50 out there with the people in the community, riding with my fellow officers, and then also trying to improve the LSPD under whatever circumstances or restrictions, we'll call them, we had at the time, depending on what the mayor wanted to give us. That's been an interesting thing to tackle. On the second page, I've just outlined all the things that we inherited. Of course, there was no structure. There was the discipline without retraining. There were no certifications. And of course, we were landed with a big financial debt, as I'm sure you guys were when you took over as well.
Yes, we have been, the state has been in debt negative $4.8 million a day.
That's a lot of money right there.
Yeah. This past administration took the abacus, shook it around, and then put it on the ground. So,
yeah, so we didn't realize.
Fixed now.
Yeah, we didn't realize the same thing, that the previous captains had taken out loans. We didn't even realize that was a thing. And the state had given money through the treasurer, and we had to pay that back. So we worked very hard at that.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Wait, say that one more time. I'm what like, I don't understand.
So, okay, the first iteration of leadership with the three captains, they had borrowed money through the state treasurer. Unbeknownst, I believe, to the mayor. And when he was able to get a hold of the books and look at everything, and finally the reins were handed over to Beric and I, we found out that they had borrowed money and we had to pay it back. And we had 30 days to pay it back. So that combined, of course, with the quota and all sorts of things like that, that we inherited, that we had to deal with. We've had our ups and downs. Anyway, I've gone on the second page to kind of talk about the different things that I personally have had my hand in. The first thing that I changed were the disciplinary type things within the PD. They were archaic, they were extended, and they did not give a good kind of record of police work. And so that had to be changed. Of course, there was no retraining back then, so we introduced retraining. I specifically led up trying to get certifications up off the ground, and decided that 3 leaders is better than 1. And I know it sounds a bit weird. However, we have 3 shifts with 3 totally different sort of avenues that they need to supply and different community feel and things like that. So it's better to have, for example, we'll just say motorbike. We have 1 leader per shift now.
Mm-hmm.
It was just better to do it that way. We've introduced our tactical response team. Motor finally is up and off the ground. Of course, we have fleet, and now we have the massive changes that we've made within the last month to Academy. Academy, I completely reworked Academy and then worked together with the shift leaders to go ahead and change that to a more hands-on approach with achievable goals while you are a cadet and while you are a probationary officer. Shift 2 and Shift 3 have already implemented it. Shift 1 have yet to have an academy. What else have we done? We raised $1.5 million for a helicopter, even though we had a quota and was on reduced pay. So we've definitely pulled together. And then the biggest change that we did is that we removed captain. Controversial at the time. However, we were notified not to bloat high command. And so we removed the captain role and we introduced what we call a lieutenant per shift that was given the ability to mold and shape their shifts, to best suit. And that's still an ongoing process.
Okay.
And then again, on the last page, I'm just kind of talking about the goals that I believe are still left to be achieved. The second phase of the training needs to be rolled out. Certifications still need to be monitored for effectiveness because a lot of them are only been around for a month to 6 weeks. We want to get dispatchers, which now fall under high command. We want to get that department up and running a little bit more effectively. There was a massive lack of training that we discovered. And of course, we would like them to have more things to do for their job role. Need to go ahead and evaluate our ranks because there definitely are people that are not pulling their weight or performing. And as usual, the SOPs need to be streamlined. I know that when I spoke to you last time, we talked about one of the biggest things being the community and what the police department looks like to the community. I've always felt that there should be transparency. And there's a way to word things, of course, holding press conferences that let the public kind of know what's going on. And whether it be an apology, a promotion, some kind of announcement or something like that, there needs to be a little bit more transparency. And then, of course, I believe that relationships need to be formed. Department of Justice, with the changes that have been made there, the San Andreas State Marshals, which we have definitely run into them quite a lot over the last week. And of course, working together with the mayor's office, weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings, whatever is set there. So that is my proposal. As I said, unfortunately, some of my notes were stolen, but that's okay. I believe I've put my heart and my soul into LSPD. I don't feel like I have finished. I do believe that I have a lot more to give. And that if you are still looking to either shuffle the changes in high commands, that I am an absolutely valuable asset.
Yeah. Thank you, Ruby. I don't doubt that. It's pretty evident to me that you are doing a lot of the heavy lifting. That's clearer now to me more than ever. And I think, quite frankly, you were probably the chief the last couple months with on paper. Well, maybe not on paper, but at least in terms of effort. What are your thoughts on Barrick?
Do you want me to talk about Barrick, or do you want to talk about him performing as chief of police?
Definitely the former, not his personal life, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because
Wait, do I need to know about his personal life? Because now I'm
no.
confused.
But I mean, I have a personal opinion. Do you know what I mean?
Oh.
People have personal
Oh,
opinions
I
on
got
people.
you. I got you.
But in regard to the LSPD,
He's not like a drug addict or something, is he?
I hope not.
Okay, all right.
So I've been assistant chief of this is my 5th month. I believe he's at 5.5 going on 6 months.
Yeah.
He is very slow moving, slow to make decisions. He prefers to have panels instead of giving discipline at the time that things are happening. I understand that he has had to go home and deal with some things back in his, where he comes from. But there have been other times that he has just been absent.
Yep.
I find it very difficult to hear him say over the last couple of days that he feels that his energy is back and he's ready to, unleash, and he feels like the shackles are off. My opinion is the shackles have been off for quite a while. There were tons of changes that we could have made, even under the expectations and the quota system that Max put in place, with the lowering of the pay, the hiring of the pay, the manhunts he wanted us to do, the things that he asked for us. The shackles are still off. I do not believe that they were on full. He states that he feels that there is still, he never got a chance to get his agenda across. And I fully disagree with that. There is so much work that has been done and that could have been done in the last 6 months, no matter what administrative, restrictions were put on us by the mayor's office.
Okay. Is there anything related to him as a person that you think I need to be aware of?
No, I believe that he has a good heart and his intentions are good. I just don't think that he knows how to get those across, how to take a thought or an idea and implement it timely.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. For me, that's not enough when you're in high command. I need an answer within a day or two. I can't wait a week or more for a simple answer of, can I go ahead and make changes to this or do this? It just, I just feel that we could be at a totally different place right now if he had been a little more proactive.
Has he accomplished anything in the last 5 weeks that Max has been in Hawaii or whatever?
I know that he was the one that was entrusted to try out the vehicles that we were given a couple of weeks ago in regard to trying to catch the high-speed street races that we found out about. Apart from that, I mean, you can see in the achievements that I've put in my proposal that we have gone ahead and given 3 leaders to each certification. Barrick took over Air 1, saying that it was kind of, it's his passion. That's what he enjoys to do, to fly the helicopter. We only just, I had a sergeant come to me the other day and said, guess what? I didn't know, but I'm actually the leader of Air 1 for Shift 2. And I said, oh, that's great, because we've been waiting for absolutely months for him to make a decision.
Andrew, thank you for the Prime sub. Does he typically flip-flop depending on who he speaks with?
He's a thinker. So he'll listen, and then he'll take time to listen. He will take he'll take a long time to think.
I see.
There have been situations where I felt that things were going to end up a certain way, and then after he's thought about it, they go completely the other way. And I think he has definitely rattled the cage of the commands when that happens.
Okay, this is all making sense. Okay, the reason I ask this is obviously not to punch down on Barrick, but rather that level of transparency obviously is necessary when we have to make such. I need to understand his performance from an outside view, because this is obviously going to be a big decision at the end of the day. Who's going to be leading up the position and the future of Los Santos? It doesn't. I don't mean this in any like negative way. I'm trying to convey it as best as I kind of see it. Is that LSPD is in a really bad spot, both because of the beating it took from the past administration, the restrictions, the lack of autonomy, but then subsequently, all the July 3rd, the gang shootings, the pressure you get. But then on top of that, y'all, in my opinion, very obviously got cannibalized, meaning, the child was split in half and one side is just got to pick away at what it wanted to eat. Right.
Correct.
So, when I look at all of that, I'm not going to shy away from, looking at what's remaining. And not to say what's remaining isn't good. I think there's fantastic officers in LSPD, but it does create a reality that after all those things have happened, there is a extremely high level of effort that's going to be required to get LSPD to where it needs to be versus, say, BCSO that got to build itself from the ground up in whatever shape they wished. Right.
Right.
So that's why I was, going with all the singles. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I can promise you none of these are like gotchas, right? There's going to be no right way to answer it. This is how I tend to do interviews for wherever, whether it's here, whether it's a business I used to own, et cetera, et cetera. I'm more interested to hear your thought, right? So, like, as you give your answer, I want to hear how you kind of come to the answer.
Sure. Okay.
So, you are made chief of police tomorrow. And within an hour of your tenureship, you're at your desk, whatever, Bones comes in and he says that we need fast cars. How do you react?
I'd want to know why. I need to hear the reasoning behind it. How he came to that decision. What the benefits would be.
I can't see it.
And because there has to be more to it. I mean, listen, gadgets and things that we need. Yes, okay. They're great. They're fantastic.
Listen,
but is that
Nino's
going to
still
change
fuming.
the way a police officer reacts when they're arresting someone or holding someone in detainment? No. So for me, I'd need to know the reason behind it. I'd like to know who else came to this decision. There needs to be a lot more to it than that. I can't just, oh, great, yeah, we need fast cars. I mean, that would be fantastic, but that's not going to change a huge portion of our policing.
What do you believe today, and this can be in any order unless you wish to prioritize it, what do you think are the top 3 problems with the PD today, and the LSPD specifically? Actually, let me take a step back. There is a very real paradigm shift, and I think we're still getting used to it. like myself, Eve, Archie, others in my cabinet. And I imagine the PD still is going to be getting used to it, which is there are now going to be 2 counties. I don't even know myself if a UPD even exists. And I want to sort of get to the particulars of that, is that is not to say that there wouldn't be any interoperability, but there is the natural fact of the matter is that with 2 counties and 2 sets of legislations and 2 sets of governance, naturally there are things that the LSPD will have grander authority over, and vice versa, right? So, in other words, naturally, every single call that is generated, the investigations that are happening in the city, that squarely lands on the LSPD to handle. Now, that's not to say BCSO couldn't have to help, but y'all will have absolute jurisdiction. As time progresses, y'all's opinion as a department on how how legislation may change will trump that of whatever is being thought of in the North. And I know when I've had this conversation in the past, it may sound very Civil War-ish or whatever you want to call it. I'm just saying this is reality, right? Like,
Right, I
we're not
understand.
aiming to kill each other or whatever, but there's going to be our way and there's going to be their way, and that's okay. Now, so with that being said, what would you say are the top 3 things that you believe that the LSPD specifically is going to have to resolve to make itself a cohesive department? And what do you think the top 3 concerns or things that you're going to have to really think about are going to be in this new LSPD?
Okay, so I truly believe that one of the first steps that has to take is evaluation. There have been people that have been put into positions within the LSPD that are not fully functioning at what that job
What do
description
you think of the Prime
is.
sub?
And in turn, that has pushed responsibility up further to lieutenants instead of spreading the responsibility the way that it was initially designed. And what that does is that puts extra work and extra strain on the command for that shift. And so instead of being able to focus on the city and getting things, to a stable position where they can respond effectively, instead they're left with the minute things that they shouldn't have to deal with. For example, I'll just something out of the blue that happened the other day, an empty report. There is no way an empty
Den
report.
Shiesty court case?
No. It's
Oh, a
another
different
one
one?
that's just. It's
Oh,
another one that's just come
the
up.
stolen gun?
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
There's absolutely no way that should have gone from an officer to the lieutenant of the shift immediately.
Mm.
We have
see.
positions in place with job descriptions fully written out for each one. And it should have gone to a sergeant first to investigate, to look into, and to then, of course, defer and give as much information to the lieutenant if needed. So there are what I feel are people sitting in positions that are very comfortable and are not doing the work. And that puts pressure on the awesome people that are putting in the work and putting in too much into the smaller, minute things. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that needs to change straight away is looking at the rank structure and who has those positions. The next thing is, I believe, is a little bit more external, which is getting a public face out there, normalizing, and I think we spoke about this when we met at the court center, normalizing press releases, normalizing the police being at events, at community things, and making sure they know that we're not just there to pull them over in a traffic stop or to arrest them. We're actually there for their safety as well. So that would probably be my top two. And the third one is training. Training is a big thing for me. I have noticed some shifts are slipping, and that needs to be addressed relatively quickly.
Okay. Okay.
And then what was you said the three?
Yes. Given the sort of circumstances about, y'all are gonna have, like, let's say, responsibility over the city. And with
Right.
the, different sets of legislation and, with all these changes kind of coming through, and with there being some uncertainty, because there's still some gray areas that are still being figured out. If you were made chief tomorrow, what are the things that you would be most, I don't want to say concerned with, but what are the things that you're going to want to kind of look out for, or plan ahead for?
I truly believe there still needs to be communication and cohesion between the High Command for BCSO and for LSPD. We work together on a daily basis. We are in each other's counties. We have crimes that begin in one and bleed over to another. We just don't have a choice. It's an island. It's San Andreas. So there need to be some common goals and even common legislation that we both want to see put through. Now, I understand, people don't do hunting in Los Santos, but they do up in Blaine County. So, sure, there will be certain legislations that they have that we don't have, and vice versa. But nailing down a good relationship between the two high commands, I believe, will definitely make things move a lot more smoother in the upcoming month. I believe that'll also make, hopefully, your job and Andy's job a lot smoother as well, if we are talking together and we have the same kind of outlook of what we would like to see. Because obviously, when the two of you come together and meet,
there are
certain things that you
Yeah,
need to
but
agree
rosy
on as
tinted
well as a
glasses.
whole. If
Okay.
it is like a state legislation or something like that, rather than a county. So I think that's really important to work together with them. And again, I think I still believe that externally,
It's not to say Nino
making
and Andy would
sure
disagree. The
that
reality is it's going to be very
Los
different,
Santos,
right?
LSPD
So I'm gonna poke at
understand
that.
that yes, working together with BCSO is
Mm.
important. In the end, we're all law enforcement officers. We may have different jurisdictions, but we still work together, and we still respond to all the things that are available. They need help, we'll be up there. We need help, they'll be down here. It has to be that way. We cannot. So I'll take this week for example. I believe it was Thursday night, or was it Friday night? Maybe, I can't remember. Friday night, majority of officers on duty were BCSO.
She doesn't
However,
know you don't want to talk with Andy
there
as
was no
equals.
BCSO, and
Listen,
it was all
Timmy,
LSPD.
you fucking retard.
In the
Go back
end,
to Reddit,
we're all
you
law
fucking
enforcement officers, and our job, of course, is to go ahead and make sure that we protect the citizens of the whole island. So there needs to be definitely some cohesion working
Special
together.
little retard,
I think
Mr.
It's very, very important.
Timmy HS. Back to Reddit you go.
And let me think about what else here.
If you took the conversation between Nino and Andy a certain kind of way, autism be hitting hard, brother. Yo, Naps, thank you the fresh sub.
I'm not sure if I can think of anything else, I'll be honest, off the top of my head.
Yeah, this is a role play server, dog. Okay. So I'm gonna poke at something you mentioned about, the North and the South working together. The reality of the matter is, I think there is more likely than not to be very strong differences legislatively between the North and the South.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily mean that like guns are going to be legal up north and not south, but there's going to be some I think based on the foresight that I kind of have, irrespective of what I may want, what Andy may want, I think there's going to be a very there's going to be a difference in culture.
Agreed.
and
There already is.
there already is, yes, and I think, at least for myself, I'm going to lean very heavily into leaning into what the populace of Los Santos is going to desire versus the desires of the North. And I think as kind of time goes by, I don't think those differences are going to be extreme, but they may be enough that may cause strong disagreements, be it with the two governments or be it with the two departments. Now, you mentioned working together, and that's certainly something we have to strive for. But how do you see yourself handling cases where something happens in your jurisdiction, there's a cross into the other jurisdiction, and there is a very strong desire to handle that situation completely counter to what your SOPs down here expect, or what your standards might expect?
Right.
My question
Yeah.
kind of,
So are you saying if we handed over the investigation to Blaine County,
Well-
or they wanted it, or is that what you're saying?
yeah, this is a hypothetical, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm looking to like 2-3 months down the line, right? Where and this happens in the United States all the time. People cross the state lines, and all of a sudden a call, someone suspect that began in one county is now in another county. So they've crossed the jurisdiction line.
Right.
Now we in other states in America, there's some it depends, it depends on where you are, but like you may have jurisdiction up to like 3 miles or something like that. In Los Santos it extends, but the point being that like someone commits a crime here, crosses jurisdiction lines, they are now apprehended by the BCSO, and they want to handle that arrest very differently than what your expectations are. How would you handle that scenario? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Okay.
I just kind of want to think through your thoughts.
So, I mean, I could give you the by the book answer, which is currently legislation outlines that it's where the crime began. It's
Mhm.
where the crime originated from. And I understand that we may have a crime that originated here in Los Santos, and we put out a warrant or something along those lines. But if they are caught doing a separate crime, or maybe they're caught in Blaine County,
Yeah.
it still falls under Los Santos for that original crime. Any additional crimes that happen in Blaine County, they can go for it. However, I believe that that's something that hopefully will be fleshed out in the early days with between LSPD and BCSO. There needs to be an understanding between the two departments on how things need to work. For me, that's kind of how I see things. If it originated here, current legislation says it's ours. However, if they're apprehended doing a different crime, they'll be charged for that different crime in Blaine County.
Okay.
I believe the officers will have to learn to work together on some things.
Let's say they refuse. And let's say
Well,
you're not. Mhm.
I mean, that's hopefully, as I said, where High Command will have to step in.
What if it
I
is
mean,
high
we're just
command?
if it is High Command, that's disappointing. But again, a discussion will have to be taken.
Okay.
Nobody wants to be that person that runs to DOJ and says, the little kid that says, "Look what they're doing." There needs to be discussion between the two. There has to be an understanding. It just can't. It
Yeah.
can't be like that. We cannot operate as adults that way.
Okay. All right.
I'm be honest. I am unsure if if Bones will continue as sheriff. I have no doubt that he will. They really have only been in office, about a month now. So I'm going to assume that Andy is keeping them there. I have worked with Bones for absolutely months and months. Unless there are some changes, he was my sergeant when I was assistant chief, and it's only been just over a month to 6 weeks that he has now been the sheriff. We don't always see things eye to eye, but we are both willing to sit down and talk them out, which is what should happen.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world, what I'm describing would go that way. The kind of the scenario I'm pointing at is we don't really know the future, right?
That's true.
And the next 2 months it could be Bones. Bones might step away, and now all of a sudden you got Conan Clarkson, and let's say he's the head of the BCSO.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. So, because and I don't want to. The reason I keep pushing this question, Ruby, is because resolving it amongst internally is, I think, the obvious easy answer. But let's say that can't be resolved.
Are you trying to ask whether I'll put my foot down? Because if that's a question, then the answer is yes.
Okay. And how would you go about doing so?
Well, again, if legislation is not being followed and the other party, being BCSO, does not want to follow through with what has been written as state legislation, then unfortunately I have to either go to my mayor to step in, or I need to go to DOJ. They are my only two options if they're not willing
Timmy,
to
you
listen.
don't watch me. You're a fucking simp saying retard Reddit shit. Enjoy your ban.
I mean, if another person in another police department, or even in my own police department, does not want to abide by the San Andreas legislation, I do believe that's where the marshals would probably step in as well.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. All right. What are your thoughts on the CIB?
Whew, that's a hot topic you've hit me with there right now.
Is it hot though?
Hot topic. It's hot in the sense that I have been the only high command around all weekend, and a lot of my time has been preoccupied with speaking to the marshals and to the individuals that I have to deal with in CIB. So yes, at the moment it is a hot topic for me. My opinion already is, and I've proposed it to high command, is that we pretty much put it on hold.
Okay.
I'm disappointed with some things that have gone on, and it looks as if I'm going to have to step in and take a look a little bit further into actions that have happened.
I imagine this has to do with the SIM card.
No, there are other things as well, Mayor.
Oh boy. I'm going to be rather transparent. I do not believe the LSPD needs an investigation unit. I want to be clear here. I'm going to give my opinion, but Ruby, if you disagree, by all means, I rather hear an alternative perspective if there's one. I do not think the LSPD needs a investigative unit. I do not think between both departments there needs to be an investigation unit. My reasoning for that is, for there to be a need for anything, there needs to first be a purpose, and there needs to be a of proof, right? Just as much as you probably wouldn't make someone, go from an officer to a lieutenant just because there's an empty spot for it. you'd want them to ensure that they have the capability to do it, and then you put them there, right? In a
Right.
more relatable for me vein, I've had individuals kind of come to my office and say, hey, I want to go do this thing for the mayor's office. I don't know if they're bored for the last 2 days and they're just like looking to do something fun, join the mayor's office, right?
Right.
I say,
yeah.
go show me what you're able to do, right? Like, and in regards to investigations, I have to ask myself, right, what real investigations have been completed? Like, maybe I shouldn't say real, but what has there been purposeful large investigations completed thus far, and enough of them that those said officers would inherently have the experience to take that investigation, bring it to court, and win. And I feel like once
Okay.
that sort of thing has been done, you now got something to work with. The second question that thing that I think about is the cop numbers, right? If people are out investigating, well, then who's patrolling, right? If the city's on fire, if someone's got their flashlight out, looking for ghosts, that's not helpful. So
Maybe if I give you a little bit of backstory, it would make a little bit more
Please.
sense.
Mhm.
So before we ever knew that there was going to be an election for sheriff, we were approached by an officer who expressed interest in starting an investigation unit. They took their time to put together a proposal for us.
Handling.
And it took quite a while. It took quite a while for that proposal to come through. But in the end, it did. And within those lines, of which I read through very thoroughly, it definitely said that they would make sure that. Oh, hello. Hi, Eberly.
Good afternoon,
More
everyone.
way some people can get through the door when they wake up.
It was definitely put in the outline for the investigation bureau that certain high priority calls they would attend to, especially if it had something to do with a civilian, a hostage, those kinds of high priority calls. And so I think because it had that in mind, we kind of waited to see what they would formulate. And we really didn't think it would be much more than another certification. Then what happened is the sheriff election happened. And of course, the leader of CIB ended up transferring to BCSO. Certain other things happened.
I listen, chat.
Unfortunately, now he is in ICU, and we have very inexperienced officers that are floundering around when it comes
Thank you for the
to
prime sub.
investigations that could have been dealt with within a week. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yep.
So, yeah, literally last night I sent High Command all a message saying it needs to be put on hold. Oh, one thing I didn't tell you is before the mayor elections, the head of CIB came to us and said, we need to be state. You need to push for us to be state and not between the two departments.
He came to me with that as well.
Yeah, all of High Command
Before
said
I
no,
ran for mayor,
absolutely
by the way.
not. Yeah, we said absolutely not because there weren't any.
Yeah.
Listen, I could have taken one of those cases, quote unquote cases, and worked it myself, and in a more timely fashion. So I believe out of all of the sub departments or certifications, that is the one that is floundering the most. And as I said last night, I sent an email to all of High Command saying it's got to be put on hold. We need to step in. We need to evaluate where they're at with everything because we have officers that are currently suspended, and we have officers that are currently being questioned by the marshals. and there are obviously
She's giving good
things that
answers.
we
Don't
have
be
not
weird,
been kept
chat.
informed of.
Don't be like Timmy, bro, that takes RP and
I
you know,
don't think
gets upset because
a
his fantasies aren't going to come
quote-unquote
true, you know?
bureau is needed at this time.
Don't be like Timmy. I want to give you sort of some background as to my reasons for being very anti-detective unit. Just so, you know, when you walk away, it's not just coming out of nowhere. This is not just a slacks thing, because I do think he's a good guy. I just think he's got too much ACDC. I've had to deal with investigative related stuff with him, and he can barely pay attention, which is fine if he was surrounded by competent detectives. But to give you a underline of my most recent experience, I woke up Wednesday, grabbed a cup of coffee, waking up. I got called down for a bench trial in which there was 2 detectives and 2 other officers. A Reverend something or other was the suspect, wanted him for accessory, being charged with accessory to a financial exchange or a robbery, one of the two, and reckless endangerment. While conducting the court case, the arresting officer, I didn't even try that hard. I was just trying to understand what the original reason for the arrest was. Was it because this car was parked sideways, which was the reckless endangerment he was claiming for being in the being positioned in the opposite way of travel on the highway, or was it because he had PC for accessory to robbery? Simply by asking those 2 questions, that wasn't even my original plan. Like, I was going to hit him with something much further down. This guy on the stand goes, I don't remember. I
What?
usually forget. I forget often. It might have been reckless. Well, it might have been robbery. I don't remember. This is the individual that gave a lawful order for the suspect to step out of the vehicle, then proceeded to detain him, right? So he had the RS. He didn't know what the RS was for. He went off the assumption of must be involved, and then he proceeded to search the suspect. So now he's conducted a search without any probable cause that it can articulate. You know, only post facto, when he, this is according my suspect, that post facto, after my client, sorry, when he was like, why'd you search me? You don't know if I was doing a robbery. He goes, oh, it was reckless endangerment. So he post facto came up with the probable cause, but then he forgot to say that on the stand and instead said, I don't remember which one it was. This is a detective, the arresting officer. So his name was Forte, by the way. Decent guy, but I don't know why he's wearing that vest.
Well, at least not right now.
Oh. Okay, well, shit. All right, well, you caught him, I guess.
He's currently suspended.
Okay, all right. Was it because of the case?
Unfortunately, I can't
fine.
tell you, but he is suspended.
Jesus. Is that why we haven't seen Slacks? Is it because he killed the Marco?
Slacks is an ICU.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately there was an incident that happened that I was unaware of until I got on duty. It happened at Mount Chiliad. Something happened up on the mountain. He ended up going down the side of the mountain. EMS have decided to go ahead and remove all of our first responder certs because whoever was with him at the time did not do the right things.
What?
And did not listen to the instructions that were given to us, given to the officers, and instead they decided to transport the person to where they felt was best, which was Slacks. So at the moment, unfortunately, I'm also dealing with that this weekend. So
Jesus.
Slacks is still in ICU.
So to like, Jesus. Well, I'm sorry you had to deal with all this. Could you wait? So y'all collectively lost your first responder certs?
They want every single person retrained.
Ooh.
That would be the lieutenant and the leader over there. So that's Lottie and Happy.
The PD retrained.
Correct. So the PD.
I don't think they have the jurisdiction for that. Abilene? That would need to come from Kanta. And even then, even if it came from Kanta, I don't think they have that authority.
EMS and hospital are separate, correct?
Yes and no. It's like a Venn diagram.
Okay. I can double check with Kanta.
Yeah.
I spoke to her about arresting somebody last night that was a doctor, so I can talk to her about that.
Okay. Because this is, to me, a matter of public safety, right? And,
yeah.
like, how do I put this? So this is one of the gray areas that's still trying to get figured out, but for just for sake of discussion, the way that it's been explained to me is it's kind of like a Venn diagram where Cantor runs the overarching medical services, right? But the county has jurisdiction over like what's in the city. So, medical facility, like the hospital down here, it's going to be weird. I don't know. That stuff's still got to get figured out.
You're
but
right.
There's some kind of Venn diagram action. And to me, whether or not y'all are certified to conduct medical seems, well, at minimum is outside the scope of what EMS should be able to dictate. That doesn't make any sense. But
I think
please do run. Please do. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
Please do let me know what
they
happens.
were just, I think they were just very upset, and it was something they probably said in the heat of the moment, which is we're going to remove all your certs. But after speaking to them, I believe what they mean is they need to retrain. You know how it is. The actions of one or two can lead to the whole team, right? Having to be retrained. And that's what happened. The actions of a couple of officers who were unfortunately stuck on the side of Mount Chiliad with Slacks incapacitated, felt that they did the best that they could, but they did not listen to EMS, who was on scene.
If you have trouble getting your certs back, I have a easy way to do it. Let me know.
Yeah, I don't think we will.
I'm only kidding.
The issue is with that, and I'm sure most of you know, is unfortunately there is a lack of EMS. Right now, there's none on duty, and I've got officers down. I've got looks like someone has passed out on the pier. We have a lot of things going on, and of course, police officers that we want to help. So it's tough.
I'm only
right
kidding.
now.
We wouldn't do that. Okay. All right. Cool. Fuck. We went so deep down this rabbit hole, I kind of forgot the.
I'm so
topic.
sorry.
No, you're good. I like these deep dive conversations. It gets me a better understanding of the way that you're thinking and whatever, and
Well, I hope through these conversations you see the amount of work that I'm putting in, and especially I would say Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I am usually the only high command around.
I think after our last discussion, that became really clear to me, and it became very clear to me that you do put a lot of work in, and and I have been paying pretty close attention as to who is around and isn't around, across both departments.
All shifts, and departments, yeah.
no one's telling me, by the way, who's on. Well, okay, never mind.
No one's telling you what?
That I was gonna say no one's telling me how many units are on duty, but then I forgot. People have been telling me that.
Yeah, Eve. I think Eve asked. Sundays are tough.
Yeah. So that so that leads me to the next thing, unit counts. But before I do, and just to ensure that there's no confusion, I do think down the line an investigative unit would be fantastic. But when we don't have boots on the ground for general things, it's a scary thought for me to be considering any form of unit beyond things that help the immediate patrol. And that's not to say that I think that, if fucking there's something that needs to be investigated, that it shouldn't. It's just that I think other, you said yourself, you could handle the investigation yourself. I'm sure there's other officers that should be afforded that opportunity, and they don't need a special title.
Correct. 100%.
Yeah. And
I believe that we have definitely some fantastic officers that each shift, trusts that we can say, listen, you're more than welcome to take a little bit of extra time to spend looking into this. Rather than, 3 people in a huddle for hours on end.
Yeah, that's part of this comes from, like I said, I was approached, hey, let's make another department. We don't have to patrol, like we don't have that, my guys can't have time to look into things because we keep going on patrol and having to do things. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, motherfucker, maybe that in and of itself should tell you it's a bad idea. Because if you're getting pulled into patrol calls, then clearly there's no resources. Like,
right.
There's Los Santos, not like fucking where in the world is Carmen San Diego or whatever. So numbers. I can't help notice that what is it? 2 weeks now, 2.5 weeks now, there was an academy with I can only estimate by looking like 30 cadets. A month prior to that, there was another set. Yet numbers are still down. And so there's kind of two angles or two lines of questions I kind of want to go down. The first is, what are your thoughts on the current selection process as to which candidates are being brought to Academy to begin with? Are you satisfied? Do you think that it needs change? If so, what would that be?
So let me explain that as of exactly a week ago, every single person that we wanted to offer an interview for had to have a background check. And I hope you understand what I'm saying.
I have a very strong sneaking suspicion. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so we would fill in the paperwork and give it to the background company, and they would tell us whether the person passed the background check. Okay. So that has definitely hindered different
RP
shifts from hiring. So as of a week ago, those restrictions have now been
Don't
removed.
say weird shit like admin's gatekeeping, bro. You don't want any bozos getting a
told us,
gun and a badge.
What they would like to see from us in our recruiting, and we've taken that to heart.
Fucking dumb motherfuckers in chat.
The previous academy that you're thinking of with 30 people was a combined academy of shift 1 and shift 3. And I do believe that the majority of cadets that went through that academy were shift 3. So shift 3 had the majority there than shift 1. Shift 1 does not have a lot of FTOs. Actually, I think they've got 3. It's not good. Not good at all. And they take a very long time to go through their cadets. Very, very long time. But there's been 2 other academies since that one that you probably haven't heard of. Shift 3 had their own academy, a smaller group of 6. And Shift 2 had an academy, I think, of 12. So retention from those two academies, because they are the ones that I went ahead and rearranged. I've been to all previous academies. We went ahead and looked at how things are done, and we realized that people are not retaining
There's a
any
lot of
information if
Redditors
they're
in
not
chat
doing
right now, aren't
hands-on
there?
training.
You can tell by
If they're
the
just sitting in a classroom, half
weird
of it
shit
goes
they've
over their
been
heads
typing.
for hours. And so we broke it down into
it's cute.
doing a more compact 2-day academy, a lot more hands-on, a lot more learning rather than sitting in classrooms. Then we've gone ahead and done what we call a cadet checklist, which is when
Yo,
you are a
Sheena, thank you for the
cadet,
Prime sub.
there are certain things that you need to achieve on this checklist. And then when you are a probationary officer, there are, which will be phase 2, which we haven't rolled out yet, is going to be more training while you're a probationary officer. Excellent response from both shift 3
No,
and
it's
from
usually
shift
the
2.
1% of like virgins.
Shift 1 have only, as I said, they're a little bit
Trying to
slower.
build up that
They've
karma.
only just interviewed a couple more people and are waiting to do an academy with the new style. Yeah.
So, like, background check aside, because I do think that's
Yeah.
you know, obviously important. But even before that check happens, what about the stage prior to that, like the selection prior to the check? Do you think it's adequate?
What do you mean? I mean, people fill out an application. Those we go through those names. We look at their application form and submit those names. We submitted those names for background checks. We could submit 15 and only get back 10.
Do you meet them prior to the background check?
No, only if they come in to give. Yeah, no.
Oh, interesting.
Do you know what I mean? So,
I do.
so as I said,
so this kind of
yeah.
speaks to a particular speculative concern I have. So this may not jive with reality. I'm sort of basing it on, you know, I lived in Los Santos for like 25 years. I've been around the block.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible that some of the people putting in the application may have mostly just driven a tow truck for 2 months? And if they do get to the officer phase, the first time they get yelled at, they stop showing up? And if
yes
so,
and no.
how do you prevent,
yes and no.
like, how do you filter that to, like, sort of lean out that application process so there's less things to background? And by the way, that's a little tongue in cheek, but I hope it kind of explains sort of what I mean by the filtering. Like,
I do, because I've encountered people that have come up to me and said, you know, I applied 6 months ago, and I still don't have a time for an interview. Whether that be, you know, back when it was the previous administration, never got back to those people. That was a little bit hard for us to handle. When I came into High Command, we put out a new application form, which
I see
asked
what
for
the
a lot
problem
more
is.
detail from people than it did before. So at least we have a small portion.
I had no idea
you know,
this is how they
of
hired.
information to go from before offering them an interview. But I understand what you're saying. I currently have someone that is a tow truck driver for 3 months. He applied 4 months ago. The difference is he's still a tow truck driver, and he also comes in. He also comes in and is our janitor, of which he does for free.
See,
I
that's
personally,
someone I wouldn't put in that bucket, but I was more
right.
like referencing folks that, like, I was at the BCSO meeting and there was a guy. I want to punch him in the face. I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
It kept interrupting Bones's meeting, asking if they've looked at his application yet. And I can tell you, I don't think anyone will want him with a gun and a badge. Now,
Yeah.
he was probably someone that had showed up just for that meeting in the attempt to maybe get hired. And if he didn't, he might have, you know, gone to another, you know, done something else. And and
Right.
and that's
You
kind of
mean
what
gone
I'm keying
postal?
at. Well, not necessarily gone postal. Maybe you would have went back to, um, I'm talking about how do you filter
Yeah.
out people that may not have been in Los Santos very long, like and
Yeah.
know
So
what they're getting into.
yeah. So again, with the change in application, there definitely is a lot more information that we look at from that. We do ask them to come in for a preliminary, sort of like their first interview. We can do a second interview if we felt that we needed to.
Mm,
But the interviews are interesting. They're a combination of, getting to know the person at the same time as, answering some questions, finding out their background, seeing if they would be a good fit for the shift. And I think, as I've said before, each shift is completely different. The needs are different as well. But there are people that we've said no to. We just have had to say no.
okay, understandable. So looking at the cop numbers, obviously, like you said, the weekends are very different. Um,
Yes.
but even during the week, there's days where there's like only 6 cops around, and it seems like it's slimming. You know better than I do. I'm only going based on what I've perceived, what I've been told, and my question becomes why do you think it is that there's few officers coming on duty? And what is the resolution in your mind for that?
Why aren't officers coming on duty at the moment? Twofold. I'll give the first answer. It's summer. I could literally give you a list of 10 very active officers that are on different LOAs, taking time to go see their family or going on a cruise or whatever it is that they do. Does that change our numbers overall? Slightly, but not enough. For me personally, where I see the biggest issue is between cadet phase, PPO, and becoming a full officer. One of the restrictions that we removed from a probationary officer was the fact that in the old days, you had to drive solo. You weren't allowed to drive with anybody. You weren't allowed to do this and you weren't allowed to do that. In your probationary phase, we removed that restriction of being the only person, you could be in the car. We now encourage people to drive with other people, to drive with other officers, to drive with other probationary officers, because we need them to build relationship. If you don't enjoy coming on duty in shift 2, I'll just say, with the atmosphere that we have to deal with in the city, and you don't enjoy coming on duty with the people that you patrol with, that is a huge issue. And so we do our best to promote, and I think we probably need to work a little bit harder at especially that probationary stage where you definitely become solidified within the LSPD. And what was the second part of the question?
Like, what's the resolution? Like, how do you
Yeah,
counter
so
the depletion or the dwindling numbers?
I don't think they're dwindling. The thing for me is that I have been asking is at what times are we lacking? I know, for example, talking in Eastern Los Santos time, if you don't mind, talking in that time, that the early morning between, say, 9 a.m. and 1 p.m., huge lack in officers. So, therefore, shouldn't we recruit for that time rather than just recruiting? So, I think that's something that we could look into, definitely.
Mm.
There are other times I believe it is probably after I go off duty, which is very late shift 2. But I'm not sure. I haven't asked yet what the response to the city is, because you have to take that into evaluation as well.
Mm.
I think looking at the times that we are getting hit, we could address that. It is very tough. We did at one point try to employ people just for the weekends. It's just really difficult.
That makes sense. um, Rather transparently, my intent as mayors to set policy for the PD, but how that policy is implemented, exercised, whatever verbiage you want to use, lands on the police department. To be a bit more particular on what policy means, because it could be anything, right? Is I would like the focus to be less about going to every call and rather be putting community first and direct lives that are in danger first. Now, the reason for that policy is given what we talked about way at the beginning of the conversation about there's a real need to rebuild, right? Get the training in, get the officer numbers in, but at the same time, I'm not interested in the age-old, I need 3X in a month. No. Go at whatever pace is necessary as long as the quality level's there. Quality meaning, do you know RS? Do you know PC? The basics, right? Are you, shooting a civilian in the back of the head because he yelled at you? You know what I mean? We don't want that. And there's going to be a give and take. And I think my way of making sure the lever's not too much on the left is like letting you guys get the breathing room to do what you need to be in a healthy spot. So officers don't feel like they have to go to literally everything and get exhausted and burnt out and not have a chance to actually simmer down and relax.
Well, let me explain something then. Okay, so let's say shift started 5 hours ago, right?
Yeah.
At the moment, we have roughly 350 calls. That's on a Sunday. On a weekday, within a 5 hour since shift change, we're looking at around 600 to 700, sometimes 800 calls. It is.
That's a dispatch.
The fact that you are constantly alerted to every single possible crime that could be happening.
There's 800 pings
that
maybe.
Needs help in the city can get a little overwhelming to some officers. However, our dispatch has been designed in a certain way where priority is given to certain calls. Priority 3 is the top one that every officer must pay attention to. That is a person in danger. That is a person whose life may be being threatened. Then you've got your priority 2 and then your priority 1. And we have never, as far as I have known, told anyone that they must respond to every single thing that comes up. It's impossible, even on a quote unquote slow weekend. But if it's a priority 3, a hostage, a person shot down, that is something that we deem high priority.
Okay. How many of those? But surely that's probably like 800 dispatch calls, right? A fraction of which are robberies and violent crimes.
Are you talking about the top priority 3 ones?
Yeah.
Let's just say that within an hour, there could be on a Sunday, I'll say 5 or 6 within an hour.
Okay.
During a weekday, it could be a lot higher than that.
Do you think that so I'm going to pick at that a little bit is you mentioned that that officers do not need to respond to certain things, right? But would it be accurate to say that sometimes that can result in the thing that they voluntarily, let's quote unquote, went to may balloon into now a 1 hour chase and a shootout?
Possibly could. For example, the
Racer, thank you for the
moonshine
Prime
stills,
sub.
We got a really strange alert the other day, and we thought, what the heck is this? We haven't seen anything like this. We searched the area, and unfortunately,
concern is-
we found a lot of people that were processing moonshine, and they were not very happy with us.
That they
So,
don't
yes,
know how to
that
resolve
went
this.
a little further. However, on those kinds of nights,
That's why I
or
keep
those
digging
kinds
at
of
it, hoping
days,
for a more
usually
comprehensive
there is
answer.
there
Because
are
the
more
only
officers on
solution
duty.
otherwise is had the numbers, which means there's no time, right? Okay. What if you ignore them intentionally and just say, well, people are going to die? So Santos.
What do you mean people are going to? What do you mean?
You're not going to be able to help every civilian, just as people have been getting away with, you're not responding to every bank. You might try to. You're probably not responding to every single one. I mean, I know actually because I drove by one the other day. There's people that are going to get shot, and you're not going to have the units to go to it. So the reality is that even like there's going to be the attempt to, right, as an option. There's going to be how much you can get to if you really push yourself. Then there's going to be the number that you're going to reasonably be able to accommodate.
Okay.
Where do you see the barometer being? And do you think the barometer can be dialed back?
Again, it's all shift based. The barometer can be higher in different shifts depending on the numbers. It's a balancing game to kind of work out what is best. Most of the time, our priority is to at least try and secure the hostage. We may not be able to solve the crime, catch the suspects, but of course, as you know, number one priority is to get the hostage.
Okay.
If this is not being done, then we're at fault, and we need to look into that. However,
no, because I'm not a
majority
retard,
of the time,
Baka.
officers are responding to the priority 3 calls, which involve civilians.
It's using basic logic. Okay.
I just don't think the officers that say, "Oh, I'm just responding to one thing after another," I'm just not sure what else they do.
Yeah.
Because we give the freedom to officers to look into things, to, if there are enough people like there were earlier today responding to a cash exchange, getting the hostage. We had 2 other units that were able to go up north and found moonshine stills. So
Yeah.
I would be interested to find out who feels that pressure, and maybe this is something I need to ask throughout the LSPD. Who is feeling the pressure of having to go to one thing after another? Is that part of their makeup as a police officer? Do they feel that when it is not required?
So let me ask it a different way. What I'm trying to understand is like, the impression I've been getting is that there may not be enough officers to respond to a lot of these calls, to the point where there may not be enough time to train officers in those circumstances. How do you balance the training, the time to train, the time to de-stress, and the time to respond? Do you think that balance is there, or is there something? I'm trying to understand, like, how do you see yourself like rebalancing the time commitments between the training, the preventing exhaustion, and responding?
Well, maybe I should speak for myself if I'm a patrolling officer.
Okay.
There can be a high stress situation. Let's just say a maze bank robbery with a hostage. And that's going to take all of my time, all of my attention, investigation to look into what's going on, to make sure that hostage is safe. to make sure my officers are being safe at the same time. But there is time, whether we have a suspect in custody or not afterwards, for people to take time to decompress, to write their statements, to put evidence away, whether it be processing someone. We don't place pressure on people to suddenly hit the next thing.
I'm starting to
If we
realize what
did
the issue
that,
is.
our reports would be even worse than some of them that I have been finding at the moment. If we did that, we wouldn't be able to close the book, put out warrants, fully process someone completely. There is no pressure put on people to do that. We always ask people to take the time after a situation because we need statements put in. We need that. So there is time to stop. For me, there is. And then yes, okay, I'm back out there.
I don't
I'm
think
10
there's a
8.
plan for
Where can I
this.
help? What's happening
That's
next?
the issue.
That is part of patrolling.
Okay. All right. And what do you does LSPD have its own like training program, or is that like joint?
No. So when the sheriff's department split, they said they want to do their own training. That is when, so about how long has it been? 6 weeks since they've been sheriffs. That's when I said, fine, this is the perfect time. I'll be honest, Beric wasn't around, so I picked up the reins and I said, let's change it. I worked together with the 3 different leads of each shift, and that's when we completely scaled the academy to something more achievable, more hands-on. And as I said, the results from both shift 2 and shift 3 have been better retention, less stress on FTOs, and achievable goals for cadets.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions, guys, that you may have for Ruby?
I'm really just absorbing what she's saying. I don't
Mm.
really have any
Okay.
questions at this time.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, same. That was a exceptionally thorough conversation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. These I wanted to try to, pick at the things that that I had asked quite a couple offices. It's been a mix of like the feedback I've been getting from other offices. Not necessarily that they're feeling this way, but rather, getting a better idea of what's happening from your perspective. Obviously, I'm not in the PD, so my, opinions are from a outsider looking in, and from an observer, from seeing what I do on a day-to-day basis. Are there any things that you would like to kind of ask me, or anything along those lines?
Well, I think it's day number 3. I'm sure you've listened to a lot of people and you've had conversations for absolutely hours. I'm sure that you've spoken to the key people that you want to speak to within the PD. I am not going to ask where you're headed in your opinions because I'll be quite honest. I hope I have swayed some of those previous opinions.
Yeah, I definitely think you have. I'm gonna be honest. There's a lot of factors at play, and I do think transparently, I was going to leave things as they were for some time and see how PD sort of reacts to the policies. But things have sort of come about that has made me realize that if changes are done soon, then there is a strong possibility that LSPD, if not left to rebuild, is gonna be a problem, right? Things are changing so quickly. If we don't get something in place sooner than later, then y'all ain't gonna have enough time to cook as the world changes. Even I don't know how much the world is changing myself.
Has something happened that I don't know about?
I'm getting more visibility as to what kind of legislative changes are going to be taking place.
Okay.
And let me give you an example, right? There's a new constitution, there's new legislation. There's been effectively reset as to how we sort of look at the world. And BCSO, I agree, is probably going to be remaining as it is, and it will, strengthen. But the
Right.
longer I wait for y'all to get a chief in place and that chief to start cooking, the more behind y'all will end up being,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I mean by that.
Well, I hope you can see. I didn't want my proposal just to be here's what needs to be fixed, because I think you need to see where we've come from, what we were handed, and the achievements that we actually have made. Because no matter whether you feel like you've been shackled or not, there is certain work that can still be done. And
Yeah.
work was done. And there were times when, unfortunately, I was left holding the bag, and I still kept working and I still made changes. We have excellent leaders over most of our certs in different shifts. Do they still need to be evaluated all the time? It shouldn't be constant. It just, we're ever evolving and life changes. But yeah, you need to see where we've been, what we've achieved, and where we need to continue.
Yeah. No, I think everything y'all have achieved thus far has been, you know, fantastic. And regardless of what ends up happening, I think, everyone should be proud. But it's kind of like there's a new world, new door opening up in front of us. And, hopefully there's a, bright future ahead. So,
I'm sure there is.
Yep.
As I said, I'm sure you're talking to other people as well.
Yep.
And I would just ask that you ask them what have they achieved at the rank that they're at, and how have they helped the LSPD? Because there has to be an element within that person, especially if they're already within the PD. Maybe you're looking externally, I don't know. But if you are looking at someone that currently is in the LSPD, they should be able to go ahead and tell you the things that they have done. Because if they are passionate about Los Santos and the police department, they would have already been doing the work and are willing to continue doing the work.
Okay. Actually, I had two more questions. These are gonna be the wild cards.
All right.
Are there offices that you have in mind that that you would consider wanting to bring in as chief? Like ones, any vets? It doesn't have to be like any particular name, but more of like a yes or no, and roughly what that number count would be.
You're talking about external?
Yeah, like people with that with past experience.
I'll be honest. No, I don't believe that the people that I had thought would be excellent within the PD unfortunately have criminal records now. They could be expunged, I suppose. It happens in our county. But I don't have any names to give you externally. No.
All right.
I have one question.
Wait, just one more wild card, Abby,
Okay.
just so I don't forget. And then please go ahead. How would you feel if Soze came in and did a boot camp?
Soze? Soze?
Yeah, Soze.
The guy with the tin foil and the bear cape?
The marshal?
The marshal?
Yeah.
He's a marshal. How did he become a marshal?
What? By applying.
But he has treason on his account.
Not for at least a couple days. Yeah, it got vacated.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Wow. I suppose that's the wild card right there.
Yeah.
I would hope he'd be willing to work with current high command in both departments. I'd like to, maybe he could do an evaluation and see where he feels some kind of training is needed. I do briefly recall him from years ago when I was in the PD. However, he wasn't really around much in the last year or so before the collapse. So hopefully, if he's willing to, if whoever is willing to work with us, then we would be willing to work with them
Yeah.
if they specifically saw a giant need within the PD.
Okay. All right. Easy. Abby, you had a question.
Yes. This question is based on a phone call I had with a citizen. Is there any misdemeanor charge that would prevent an applicant from applying to the?
Any misdemeanor charge?
Yes.
I believe right now it's only citations that would have to be looked at. At the moment, we have only been accepting people with citations. We haven't been accepting people with misdemeanors.
Oh, okay. That clears up a lot.
Yeah. Majority of people, that it's not an issue. Their MDT comes back clean.
I had I'll just tell you straight up. I had a gentleman call me, and he applied to PD about 5 days ago. Said he spoke to somebody. But because
Okay.
he had it was the charge is called like criminal possession of seeds or something of that nature.
Oh,
It's a misdemeanor, and he was denied because of that. And I said, I'll look into that for you because I was under the impression that misdemeanors, certain ones were allowed, but that's not the case. And I really don't have an opinion on that. I just wanted to know what
right.
was on there.
I would say up until now, no, we haven't really taken people that have misdemeanors and specific, of course, felonies. But I do believe, certain circumstances,
lost
I
his
don't see why
seeds.
they couldn't appeal to a judge. You never know, right?
Are you saying appeal to a judge to have a expungement or appeal to
Right.
the police's? Oh, okay. All right.
A little. I mean, really, you would just bring it before a judge.
This is outside the 30 days. This, I just found
Oh,
out about
is
this.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
this happened like 40 days ago.
Yeah. Unfortunately, up to now, no, we have not accepted individuals with misdemeanors.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Easy. I am. I think that mostly covers like the big pieces.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you so
think
much
of anything
for your time.
else? Yeah, let me know.
Absolutely. Transparently, I don't know what the what do you call it? What the how many days it's gonna be? But I am trying to. There's a lot of things we gotta get sorted in the mayor's office before I can give enough attention for the chief of police selection. To give you some insight, we've been losing $5 million a day.
Oof.
We resolved that last night. Took a while to figure out what was happening. We are dealing with people losing their minds over pay reductions in very specific places like Toe. TLDR, the past mayor, I don't think knew how to use these sliders because there's no balance, if that makes sense. Like there's things on there where like you're putting money somewhere, but you got to take it from somewhere else, but it wasn't being taken from anywhere. And there was some luck involved because apparently some of that money was getting drawn from the wrong account. We're actually should be in the multi-million negative. And if we do go into the negative, everything stops. So we're kind of figuring that out while simultaneously trying to get some of the basic legislation passed. the foundational stuff, since a lot of stuff's been wiped out. If there's anything that y'all need, fast forwarded with legislation, please let us know. We can try to get that done within the next 24 to 48 hours. We already got like four or five pieces passed through, or anything that you might need that might prevent y'all from, doing your thing for the next little while.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right. Easy.
All right. Well, thank you, folks. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. York.
And hey, good to see you over there. All
Yeah,
right, folks.
beautiful.
My number's in the lemon list since I was robbed. I got a new number,
Oh, jeez.
and I suppose I'll head back out. If you need me, you know where to find me. Thanks, folks.
You're
All
not
right.
in the lemon
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not. Oh, you know why? It's because I had a little head. There you go, Abilene. Put it back in. All right, thanks, folks. You have a good day. Is the door open? Door's open. There we go. Thank you again. Appreciate you all.
Take care, Ruby. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. That was a good interview. I think she definitely ran the LSPD on behalf of Barrick. That was obvious to me a couple days back. But I imagine after y'all heard that, I'd like to hear what you think.
What was that initial stage of questioning? You were asking her sort of as I walked in about a bureau and her not seeing a need for it.
Oh yeah, I'd asked a question about like whether or not CIB was needed or necessary. And it sounded like mostly the answer was no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that her opinion on that sort of flies in the opposite direction of a statement she made later,
Which
where
was?
she was proclaiming that doing side investigations into things really takes up her time and bogs her and other officers down. So it's really a choice of whether they're going to look into things or patrol, if you recall that. And then to me, that was like, yeah, well then wouldn't you benefit from a bureau to like hand things to and be like, hey, start this, tell me where it goes, sort of thing, and et cetera, et cetera.
Wait, did I? Could you speak up? By the way, I don't recall catching that. Did y'all catch that? Was
I'm sorry, I just stepped back in. What now?
Michael?
I came in late,
Shit.
So Archibald was there. You recall when she was talking about the time, how officers spend their time, and she said that they can go look into things if they want, and sometimes I don't know. She has different avenues of work that she's doing, and looking into things like an investigation really take up her time.
What specifically about it?
Do you recall?
I think I know what you're talking about. I think you were talking about like they found like moonshine stills, that thing?
Oh, that's what opened up the conversation, but then she was speaking on doing investigations in general, and how that takes up so much of her time. And
no. It was that what was discussed when you were first coming in is the TLDR is you do not need an investigation unit to investigate, and rather officers should feel like they have the latitude to do so, not only to create that skill set, but also to begin forming the foundation that may down the line lead to one. And she also made the statement that some of the existing detectives spend their eternity trying to investigate something that she would have closed in a week's time. So she was sort of relating like, even I could have closed it in a week and I'm the assistant chief, whereas they may spend a month, which is true. I mean, like, which just based on some of the, things that we're aware of, these guys sit on their ass just like, doing God knows what. And then, But
You, Mr. Chavez, you want to get the door for them so they can get in and out?
wait, who? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had to carry them in here earlier, so.
You should have a 7:30 coming.
Hey, what's going on, gentlemen?
How's it going?
Oh,
sir?
oh shit, I didn't realize. Okay, we'll pause on the debrief on that. Actually, oh shit. Hey, can you give us like just 5 minutes, 10
Take
minutes?
all the
Yeah,
time
no
you need.
problem.
All right, easy, thank you. Shit. Okay. Any other thoughts? I know some of y'all were here for like half of it. All right.
I mean, I missed the second conversation that you had with her, but that seemed a lot more amenable than the conversation you had when I was just doing paralegal and you were a lawyer talking to her the one time. So
Mhm.
that's a step up. I could definitely see her being a strong leader overall in the PD. Definitely, probably not for chief, but that depends on how things go and get rebuilt from here on in. Somewhere in leadership, in command, or just below it, one of the two, I feel like would be a good spot for her. She's obviously got a passion for this and wants to do the jobs, which is very important.
Yeah, I have a bit of a concern that look, I'm gonna be transparent. I felt like a lot of her answers were okay. There's a couple things that, and this is why I kept poking at things, right? It wasn't a beat it down, but I was trying to give her opportunities to answer on her own accord. But some of those answers seemed extremely political responses that could have been summarized as "I don't have a plan for that." And
no, absolutely fair there.
that was unfortunate because they were on some very key questions. I don't think they had a plan, or were able to construct a even spitball of a plan for how do you balance having few offices and a million calls while juggling training new ones in. I think the concept of limiting to what you can do seemed foreign, which is understandable because these guys were operating under the regime of quotas and a commissioner.
Congratulations, Nino, Mr. Change Gang.
But my concern is there may not be any experience, possibly due to the lack of direct answer as to how to function outside of respond to everything. Am I making sense?
I'm
and if
honestly
there
probably
is,
looking
I
at
didn't
things a
see
little too-
that.
I'm honestly probably looking at things a little bit too charitably.
Well, no, I mean, listen, you don't have to, my perspective isn't the only one, you know what I mean?
And I know what you're saying, but there is like a certain vision that we're trying to push from my perspective as well. So I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here kowtowing. I'm just saying, yeah, I do see your perspective on that. It makes sense to me.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that to me was the tough one because, I don't know. The other thing that stood out for me is holy fuck, they literally just have people apply and then tell me if I'm misremembering, but when I asked about because this came up with the Vivian conversation, she had very different answers. They were more complete. Vivian, relatively speaking, had much more complete answers and solutions, and that's, I think, that was the key difference. Ruby, if I were to do a comparison, because we don't have a lot of time,
and the mayor crew feels strongman.
Ruby has an idea of how things operate today, and I think May has a belief that the way that they operate today, due to the merits of how it's been operating, with her being chief, can continue to operate this way and succeed. But when possibly presented with some of these challenges that I represented, there isn't necessarily an answer for how to work around that. Vivian, on the other hand, was able to provide working solutions in the moment. And in some cases, actually foresaw some of these problems and preemptively provided said solution. Specifically, the hiring process. There is, at least the way that it was portrayed to me, and tell me if I'm mishearing this, is that they get applications. There is somebody that goes and, filters it.
It's background company, yeah.
Yep. Could you see who that is real quick?
That's Bobby Charles.
All right.
Bobby, you have to wait in line. There are some people ahead of you.
You fucking snitch!
I'm gonna beat your ass if you don't back up away from this fucking door, Bobby. I swear.
I thought she was going to sleep.
I'm gonna curb stomp you in 4K. Back the fuck up, Bobby.
We going to the next crew?
Sorry, I was just waiting for Bobby's situation to get resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interview process has me like really confused. I kind of want to bring that back up. So it sounded to me like they do the application, they wait for approval, and then after that they just train them. That's fucking scary.